Hello, all my JavaScript friends. This is the TheVirtuoid, aka Mike Smith, and this is our holiday game 2025. Every year that I have done this channel, I have tried to have a holiday game. I had a holiday game in 2020, a holiday game in 2021. Unfortunately, just before holiday game 2022 was to come out, I put the site on hiatus until this year. So this is now our holiday game 2025. And this particular one is called Krampusoid, which is kind of it's a takeoff on the old Asteroids game with just a couple of little extra quirks here and there. Let's go ahead and go through the gameplay just a little bit. To play the game, well, first of all, I use a controller. The left stick moves the Krampus in the middle of the screen. The idea here is you need to shoot the presents, and once you shoot the presents with your guns, which the gun you can see it kind of get to the area here. You can see my gun moving around there. That's where the bullets are going to fire from. And the bullets fire basically are pieces of coal because Krampus gives out coal. But the idea here is to kill all or to destroy. So the purpose here is to destroy all of the asteroids and not to get destroyed by either the elves or by Santa. You can already see it. An elf is coming around real quick. Let's see. An elf should be here any second now. There's an elf, and the elf will continue to fire at you while it's on the screen. And if you get hit by one of these lightning bolts, boom, you're automatically dead. And you get 1 point for every asteroid that you hit. And if you can clear all asteroids within 30 seconds, you get some bonus points. And that's pretty much all there is to it. And the only difference between this and the Asteroids game is the asteroids would actually kill you. Or in this case, the presents would actually kill you if you hit them. This one, I just kind of let them bounce off of each other. So, made it just a little bit easier. But as you can tell on the right-hand side, let's just go through some gameplay here. We press Y on the controller to start. We press Y. This level's going to start in a couple seconds. And then we can use the fire keys to be able to fire at the asteroids. We should be having the Krampus. You can see on the left-hand side there that there is a little bonus. There's our elf. Let's see if we can kill the elf first. You do not get points for killing the elf. Nope, sorry, you don't. Oh, I'm gonna miss him. This is why I don't play video games, is I'm not very good at them. Boom. No bonus this time. So that's level 1. Each time it goes up a level, you get more asteroids up on the screen. As you'll see here just a second, we started out with 4. Now we got 5 asteroids on the screen. So we go 5 asteroids. And the very first level is a 100% chance that the elf will come out every 15 seconds. At the second level, there is a 95% chance it's going to be an elf. And then so on and so forth. Whoa! Ow! See, I sat there talking. I forgot I didn't go ahead and get out of the way. So that's what happens when the game is over. Then I got 49 points. And then it goes back to the screen itself. Let's go ahead and start one more time so you can see what the Santa looks like. The Santa actually moves a little bit faster than the elf. And we'll get up in levels here and tell you and let you see the Santa. Okay, so at level 2 here, we have a better chance of having a Santa appear. Hopefully one will appear shortly. That's another elf. No bonus. Level 3, even greater chance of having a Santa appear. All right, let's see about level 4. Eventually, we're going to get a Santa to appear on the screen. Nope, still no Santa. Actually, I think what we'll do is once we get to level 5, we will just kind of sit there and wait. All right, we got level 5, so this time we're just going to kind of sit here and wait for old Saint Nick to appear. We'll just kind of fire. You can see that's what the coal looks like, by the way. The coal represents the bullets. There's Santa. Oh, and he got me. Santa moves faster, both the lightning bolts, and he moves faster. So you got to be really quick on the draw to be able to get past Santa. So that's basically what the game looks like. It's a very simple game. And I even got a little credit screen to show up on the screen. So what we'll do now is we will take a quick look at what the code looks like. Okay, the structure of the game is really, really simple. It's, well, relatively simple. It took me about a month to put everything together, but, I have to pay the mortgage job that I've got to be able to work with, and sometimes you're just too tired to work on the game. Either way, doesn't really matter. Everything works. Oops. Everything works through the index.html file, which, if you're familiar with Phaser.js, basically you tell it, what JavaScript file you want to use, which represents how to load up all the different scenes, and it takes care of absolutely everything else. So as you can tell here, I have absolutely nothing inside of my index.html. And this particular file here, the Krampusoid.js, that's listed underneath the JS here, it's very simple itself. It just does the configuration file for Phaser.js and launches two different scenes. It launches the credit scene and the Krampus scene. And the credit scene is what you see. Let me go back over here. Credit scene is what you see right here, all the different credits that are rolling up on the screen. Its entire purpose in life is just to scroll those credits. So we're not going to go through that too much here. The big thing here is all the different JavaScript files, all the different classes. Now, how do we group all the different classes? Well, let's go back over to the screen. And basically, I've grouped the different classes, as you can, basically from what you see on the screen here. We have a class on the left-hand side, which I call the sidebar, and that controls everything we need to know about the sidebar, whether we could do a game over, press Y to start, or if we when we have the scores going, or when there's a hit or something like that. We have a class that controls the Krampus that you see in the middle of the screen here. And all the different missiles that fire out of the Krampus, the different coals, the coals themselves. We have all the different pieces of we have a class that helps us move the Krampus based upon what we're doing with the controller. The left stick controls the movement of the Krampus. The right stick controls where it's going to fire off when we hit the fire. And the two triggers, the RT and the LT triggers, are what fires off the coal. That's a class itself too. The Asteroids or the presence, it's its own little particular class. No big deal there. The Elf and the Santa are two different classes, but both of them extend one single class called the Ship, because they both do the exact same thing. It's just that the Santa maybe is a little bit faster than the Elf. So basically, both of them do the same thing, and so we'll see that. So both the Ship. The Ship is the main class, and we have both the Elf and the Santa who will extend that class. And the same thing with the missiles that the Elf fires, the Krampus fires, and Santa fires. That's basically a missile. That's just not basically. It is a missile class that then gets extended to Krampus missiles, and it does a certain thing, Elf missiles and Santa missiles. So let's get back over to our code and let's take a quick look at all those. So for instance, let's just go from the very top to down. Here's our asteroid class. It's very simple. Its entire purpose in life is to create an asteroid, and we have three different classes. We have, or three different scales: the small asteroid, the medium asteroid, and large asteroid, which basically means that when when we create a large asteroid and it gets hit, then it will split into two mediums, and a medium gets hit, it gets split into two smalls, and a small gets hit, it just disappears off the screen completely. Everything has its own preload section, and this preload section says, hey, I need you to load this particular image to be able to give me the asteroid. This creates the asteroid and sets all the different options for the physics that is needed by the asteroid or needed by Phaser.js. And then we set the physics attributes, because one of the things that's interesting is that once we create the asteroid and then add it to the physics group, it actually loses its angular velocity and velocity. So once it gets added to the physics, I then have to set the physics attributes. And you'll see this also when we take a look at the ships. But this is all the asteroid does. It just creates the asteroid. So it's very, very simple. Some of the magic, though, happens in the asteroid group. This is where we group the asteroid together, where we group all the different asteroids together. And you can tell here I should have taken that out. We'll take that out right now because I don't need that anymore. So the asteroid group, or the asteroid group basically is what groups all of our different asteroids together and then gets applied to our asteroid physics group, which is extraordinarily important. Now, it needs to know where the Krampus is located at. It needs to know where the space is. The space is our general screen itself. That's the black part you see on the right-hand side of the screen. And so we need to have that two pieces of information, or three pieces of information, the Krampus, the space, and the physics group, to be able to work with the asteroids. This is where we add an asteroid in there, which basically comes down to creating an asteroid. We do have a special function here called find non-overlapping position, which basically takes a look at both of these. When we're creating a new asteroid, it takes a look at where the position of the Krampus is, where the position of the asteroid is, and if we have to create a new asteroid, it makes absolutely certain that it doesn't overlap onto an asteroid that happens to already be there, or on top of Krampus, because we don't want an asteroid spawning right on top of Krampus. So that's what this particular routine does here, and that's just down here. And I'm not going to go through the code. It's very, very simple there. But once we create that, then we add it into our asteroids and we return it back to them. We return it back to the calling program so it can add it to the physics group and things like that. We also have a routine to be able to remove an asteroid. So the idea behind remove an asteroid is that the asteroid has now gotten hit. We need to not only remove it, but if it happens to be a large or a medium, we need to split that asteroid up by basically adding 2 asteroids in place of the other asteroids. So, once the other asteroid gets destroyed, we already have 2 asteroids that have already been created. And this is where we actually do the add physics group itself. And we add it to the asteroid and do that set physics attribute. So no big deal there. And we take that, we take the old one out and destroy it. Not a big deal there. This removes everything out of here. Phaser.js automatically, if you destroy a sprite, it will automatically destroy it out of the physics group. So there's nothing that we have to go to the physics group and say we need to also get rid of the asteroid there too. And that's basically all there is to that, because the asteroid group is very important to be able to control all the different asteroids, because when we do set up the physics group, I want just one group to handle all the asteroids, and this is what that does. The elf... Let's look at the elf and the Santa real quick, because they're both exactly the same thing. And that's basically the ship. The ship is a base class that will eventually handle both the elf and the Santa. Not the Krampus, because the Krampus is slightly different, but this will be just the elf and the Santa. And it's no big deal here. We have a constructor. We set all the different scales that are needed for the physics. We set what the missile group is going to be and what the missile constructor is. And that's very important, this missile constructor, because when the class is extended and the extended class is going to have to pass to it, what missile am I using? Is it going to be the Krampus missile or the elf missile or the Santa missile? What name is it going to be? Is it going to be elf ship or is it going to be Santa ship? What's the speed? Because the Santa ship is faster. What's going to be the name of the sprite? Is it going to be the elf sprite or the Santa sprite? What is the missile's physics group? Because once we create a missile, when we're firing everything, we got to put it into the physics group so that Phaser.js knows to be able to use that to collide with either the asteroids or the Krampus ship. So all of that will be passed to it from the extended class, either elf or Santa. The big thing here is launch. When we launch it, we're going to launch it off the side of the screen, either left or right, and then we're going to randomly move it to another side of the screen. It's going to just move in a particular straight lines. As you can see, actually it's happening right now. As you can see here, wasn't happening right now because I forgot I had saved the asteroids group, so it reset itself. But anyway, let's go back to it. Well, let's just take a look at it. Let's just see what happens here real quick. Once the riff goes on the screen, so there's the elf. As you can tell, it has now started at the bottom and it's going out on a straight line. Santa does the same thing. The original Asteroids game, the faster ship would actually change directions, but I'm not doing that in this particular case. We're making it easy. When we fire a missile, it does a fire ever what we call the next fire time. This is basically a 500 millisecond delay, so it fires off 2 missiles per second. It calculates the angle based upon where the Krampus is currently located, and once it has that angle, it creates the missile. Using the missile constructor, it adds it to the physics group, and then it fires the missile. Boom, and off we go. And then whatever happens at that particular point in time. We update. This is the update section that is called every time that something happens. We basically need to fire off the missile when we need to fire off a missile. If our missile is off the screen, we need to get rid of that particular missile, and then we need to update our movement. And this is very important, this update movement, because once we get off the screen, we need to remove the ship, which is what this remove ship is all about. If we return true from the update movement routine here, that will signify to the system that we need to remove this ship, because once the ship gets off the screen, we don't want it to fire missiles anymore. We we just want it to get rid of it. And so when we do remove the ship, we destroy the sprite. That'll take it out of all the groups. We destroy all the missiles, we get rid of our moving target, and the next fire time is the maximum safe integer, which will mean that it will never fire again until we reset that next fire time once we start the firing process one more time. So if you go to Elf and into Santa, the screen, they're so small because everything is taken care of by the ship. All I really have to do is preload my Lightning and my Elf ship PNGs and then use the constructor to be able to tell it, hey, what's the name of my ship? What's the name of my sprite? What's my missile constructor? And the ship takes care of everything. Santa is the exact same way. It's really the exact same code, except that we've just changed names and everything. That's it. That's the beauty of being able to extend classes, is that once you have a base class that does everything, all I got to do now is just give it a new name, give it a new speed, give it a new missile constructor, and we're done. So that's how ship works, and missile works pretty much the exact same way. Let me just kind of clear off the screen here a little. But missile works the exact same way. Where is missile? There is missile. Missile, when you construct a particular missile, it's going to basically have a default speed, a sprite name, things like that. It's going to set all the different origins, rotations. It's going to add it to the. It's going to add to the scene. It's going to add it to the physics group, and then it's going to add it to the physics section, and then it's going to do some more physics fun stuff there. When we fire it, which is very, very when we fire it, we're going to make it visible. We're going to give it a particular velocity, and we're going to set the rotation angle. And then this is the pre-update that gets called by the Phaser.js. This is the pre-update gets called by Phaser.js, and this basically allows us to be able to say, hey, if we are outside of the range, then we want to be able to set it inactive, set it invisible, and destroy it. Missile is actually a sprite itself, so this is treated a little bit differently. But that's really all there is to it. There's really not a whole lot to this particular missile. And then so when we get to the Santa missile, we're doing the exact same thing we did with the ship here. We do the sprite name, we do the speed, and we're done. And of course, the red lightning or the Elf missile. There's the regular lightning. It's called the Elf missile. It's called the speed. So that's one of the beauties, again, about extending classes is I've got one missile class that does absolutely everything. And I've got one ship class that does absolutely everything. In fact, Krampus missile even uses missiles. So even though the Krampus does not use the ship, the missile does use the missile. So it loads up the coal. We give it the sprite name, we take the default speed, and we just call it, and that's it. So everything is controlled by the system, or by these base classes, the missile class and the ship class, and that's really, really a great way to design, if I should say so myself. Krampus. This is the big one, because Krampus has got to do a whole bunch of stuff. So Krampus technically probably could be refactored to use the ship, because it still does the same. It still does a lot of the same things. But I kept it this way just to kind of show you that we're doing things a little bit differently with the Krampus. But it basically does all these different things. It still does the fire and missile. It still does the set physics attributes, which is what the ship does itself. We have a whole bunch of different getters to be able to get the information. The big thing here with Krampus, and the reason it wasn't a different one, is that we do have the gun rotation, so that when there is something on the right stick of the controller, we need to be able to rotate the gun, and that's done within the process rotation, and that's called within the update routine of the scene, which we'll get to here shortly. And then so basically this will allow me to be able to take that little white dot, and let's just go back over to here. And let me just move Krampus where you can see him. You can see the white dot. As I use the right stick, the white dot moves around. So that will just basically tell you what angle the coal will fire at when you press the fire buttons. So that's what that gun rotation. So that's what's different about the Krampus that it is about then from the other ships. And then we have the update, position, and destroy. So in reality, I probably could have taken the ship and used the ship as the basis for this one too. I just didn't get around to it. So that's the way it is. And that's basically it. Actually, there's a little bit more to it than that one. We have the space one. This controls the space that we see. That's let me get back to the full screen here. That's the black area. That's where the credits is scrolling right now, and where all the action takes place. That just allows me to define what that space looks like. And we have the sidebar, This defines that sidebar on the left-hand side, which we get back to the screen. That's that where it says Krampusoid and game over, way over here. That's the sidebar. And it controls a whole bunch of different things. It prints out all the different pieces of information. This is all the different fonts. We draw it out. We draw the score, the bonus timer, the game over, the press start, the hides, and then we can hide them. So the idea here is that this controls the score, the level, and the bonus. And this also allows me to be able to, this is where we control all the different statistics. We have the increment score, the increment level, the increment bonus. This is where we start the bonus timer. It runs for 30 seconds, as you can tell there. And the amount of time you have left is the number of bonuses you have. This stops the bonus timer and adds it up to your score. This shows the score on the screen. So if I wanted to be able just to show the score, this allows me to be able to show the score. This allows me to be able to hide the score. This draws the entire score out. And this is using just simple Phaser.js stuff. Draws the bonus timer, shows the bonus timer. These are real simple to understand here. This is my main draw, which, this is where you can see the Krampusoid, help Krampus save Christmas, and blah, blah, blah. All that kind of fun stuff. What to do when they draw the game over, when they press the start, what happens when you draw the game, when we press start, we need to draw the press start. When they have started the game, we want to hide the press start and show the press start if necessary. When the game is over, we either want to hide the game over or show the game over. And this is the countdown that you see in between the different levels. So the whole purpose of the sidebar is to be able to hide or show the different text that appear on the screen depending upon the different situation, or also to just count down and do the scores automatically. But the big thing I want to show you here is that everything is event driven. And what I mean by that is, if you take a look now into the Krampus scene itself, within the event, the Krampus scene, we have the different sections that you normally have in a Phaser.js. You have all the different preloads. This is where I'm loading in all of the different graphics. This is the create section where I create all the different physics groups. This is where I add in all the different physics groups. This is the grouping that says, this controls the collision between ships and asteroids, and they just happen to collide and bounce off of each other. Every time you create a ship, that gets thrown into the ship's physics group. Krampus gets thrown in there automatically. Every time an asteroid is created or deleted, that changes the asteroid's physics group. This is the one where we have ship-to-ship collisions. So if a ship happens to hit another ship, they just bounce off of each other. That's going to very rarely happen, because by that point, probably the elf ship or the Santa ship has blown up the Krampus ship. But that's another story. This is one where we have the ships colliding with the missiles, and this is actually called an overlap, which means that basically instead of just colliding and then bouncing off like ship to ship or ship to asteroid, this basically just runs saying, okay, they're overlapping, what do you want me to do? Because if a ship and a missile hit each other, then the ship dies, whether it's Krampus, an elf, or Santa. Asteroid hits a missile. That's when we take the asteroids and split it up or make them disappear. And finally, asteroids hit asteroids. They just collide off of each other. And then the update section is within Phaser.js. It gets run, about 60 frames per second. This allows me to be able to, update all the different pieces of information. Do I launch the ships? Do I update the ships that are already launched? This allows me to figure out how to do the launch of the ships. This section right here allows me to essentially say, if my asteroids or my presence or my ship or Krampus have gone off the screen, now make it wrap away onto the other screen. That's how we can get the asteroids and the Krampus to go to different sections of the screen. So for instance, if I go back over here and I can move my Krampus off the left-hand side of the screen, it will automatically appear back on the right-hand side of the screen, or if I move it up, it will automatically appear back on the bottom. The same thing with the asteroids, as you can say with this asteroid here. Once it goes off the left, it now, it gets hit by the elf. Okay, you can see, let me just hit this asteroid, knock it out of the way. There we go. And now it appears on the right-hand side, left-hand side. Once it appears once it goes off the right, it appeared back on the left. So that part allows me to be able to wrap it from one to the other. This is where I process the gun rotation to make sure the gun rotation gets done. This makes sure that if I hit the thrust button or the left stick, the Krampus moves where it needs to move. And this allows me to be able to control the firing of the missiles. I don't want to fire when the game has. I only want to fire when the game has started and we're not in the countdown. If the game is not started, which is where the credits on the screen, there's no firing. The big thing here is on the event. Let me just show you something here. On the sidebar on the start countdown, you see this thing called game event emit, and then game event countdown complete, game event emit, game event level started. Same thing here, countdown started. So what happens is that what I have done here is that this game event, there's a game event object, let me just show you that here real quick, which defines all of our different events that could possibly happen, like Krampus missile hits an asteroid, game started, next level, remove Santa ship, and so on and so forth. So this defines all of our different events that could possibly occur. And when I want an event to occur, for instance, in this case, countdown started, I want to be able to sit there and say, okay, is there anything I need to do on the countdown started? Well, what will happen is that the game event will automatically send it back off to the scene, and the scene will, let me bring back up the scene. The scene will come into the on event section and sit there and say, okay, so if the event equals countdown started, I need you to execute on countdown started. So if we now go to on countdown started, all I'm doing in this case is just setting a particular variable. I'm not doing anything else. But that will then allow me to be able to do any kind of processing or anything before something else occurs. Like, for instance, before we do the starting level in such and such, and then once the countdown complete or the level is started, then it will get those particular events. Like, for instance, on level started. Let me just go to the on level started here. Or is that on level next? Oh, that was level started. Okay, so when we do the level started, this basically is things I want to run every time I do the level start. Level start. Like, I want a new Krampus, I want a new asteroid group, I want to add Krampus to our ships group, I want to set the physical attributes, I want to create the 3 asteroids plus the level, so there's always an extra asteroid every single time. So level 1 has 4 asteroids, level 2 has 5 asteroids, and so on and so forth. And then if the game is started, then we do the show score, show bonus timer, and then set the current time, and just go on from there. So the idea here is that whenever something occurs, we sit there and send off an event. So for example, let's go to the big events, because up here in the create, we set here all the different colliders when things are colliding. Let's take a look at what happens when a ship and a missile hit each other. So we go to handle, missile, hit, ship. So let's go to that. And there it is. So when we have a missile hitting a ship, it passes back to us the ship sprite and the missile sprite. So in this case, if the missile is an instance of an elf missile and the ship name equals the Krampus name, then we know that the elf missile has hit Krampus. And if the elf missile has hit Krampus, what happens? Well, let's find out. If the elf missile hits Krampus, we go to on elf missile hits Krampus, in which case we destroy the missile, and if the game has started, we send a game over event. And when the game over event occurs, let's find out. If the game over event occurs, oh, I'm searching incorrectly. Okay, here we go. If the game over event occurs, then we go to on game over, in which case we stop the bonus timer, we show game over, we hide press start to hide the bonus timer, and then there's a 10-second delay before we restart the game reset. And then we send the event called game reset, which resets the game back to the very beginning with the credits and all that kind of fun stuff. So all of that occurs if the elf hits the if the missile has okay, so that was where was that? There it is. That was missile hit ship. So that was in case of the missile. If it was an elf missile and it hit Krampus. If it was a Santa missile and hit Krampus, then we do Santa missile hits Krampus, and it basically does the exact same thing. It goes through the game over. If, however, it's a Krampus missile and it is not the ship name is not a Krampus name, we need to find out whether it hit the elf or hit Santa. And so we just do a simple check here, say if the ship name equals elf name, then the event is Krampus missile hit elf, otherwise Krampus missile hit Santa. And we'll just take a look at the Krampus missile hit Santa. And we got a little delay here while we fix our monitor.
2 very boring minutes later.
Okay, we're back. And so if a Krampus missile hits F, let's see if we can see what happens there. We'll just use that as our example. And that means that Krampus missile hits elf. Let's find that. There it is. We destroy the missile. And if the game is started, we remove the elf ship. Now, we don't do anything with that. We just remove the elf ship itself. And we've already taken a look at seeing what the elf ship, what happens when we do remove the elf ship. And we remove the Santa ship if we hit that Santa one. Last thing I want to show you here is what happens when a missile hits a ship. Okay, excuse me, missile hits asteroid. If the missile is an instance of an elf missile, then it's elf missile hits asteroid, or Santa missile hits asteroid, or Krampus missile hits asteroid. I want to show you the Krampus missile hits asteroid 1 real quick. So what do we call? We call on Krampus missile hit asteroid. So you see the nomenclature I've done here? Here's my event. I've got on and then the name of the event. So it's really easy to kind of figure out what you've got here. So what happens? We destroy the missile. If the game is started, we increment the score by 1, and then we remove the sprite from the asteroid group. So that's all there is to it in that case. So if a Krampus missile hits the, when the Krampus missile hits the asteroid, we get a score because the Krampus has tried to destroy the presents. But what happens if, let's say, the elf or Santa hits an asteroid? Well, let's go up here. Well, actually, Mel said on elf missile hits asteroid, restore the missile. We remove it from the asteroid group, but notice we don't increment the score. So if the elf or the Santa hits the present, it gets destroyed, but you don't get credit for it. So that's one of the differences there. So one of the reasons you want to try to, if you want to try to maximize your score, you want to get rid of the Krampus or the elf as quick as possible, or else they're going to take out some of your presents for you. And so that's the real key here, is that everything that occurs, no matter what, gets a game event. And so we can then handle all of that game event on this on event system here. And this allows me to basically know exactly what I need to do in certain situations. Like, for instance, when the game is over, what happens? Well, we do the kaboom sprite. That's that little flash, that little kaboom flash that comes up. That's what happens on the game over. Right now, absolutely nothing happens when Krampus hits elf or Krampus hits the Santa. They just bounce off each other, so no action is taken. Everything here allows me to take a look at each individual piece of the puzzle individually and then do specific actions towards that particular event. I don't have to, when I'm doing level next, I don't have to worry about what happens when the Santa hits the elf. Everything is here. Everything is organized where I can see it at a glance automatically and know exactly what it does. Nothing interferes with anything else. And that's the real key to trying to keep this separation of concerns here. Level started. What happens when you remove an elf? What happens when you remove Santa? And so on and so forth. And basically, that is really all there. Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry. Game controller. So this allows me to do the game controller. This connects up the controller. No big deal here. This allows me to get the left stick, right stick, the buttons, the left or right, up, down, game start. What happens when we get the left fire missile? What happens when we get the right fire missile? What happens when we get the thrust? All that kind of fun stuff. So that's really all there is to it. There's not a whole lot to the game controller, but that's basically all there is to the game itself. It's a relatively easy game. And as you can tell, and that's one of the things I wanted to mention. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this. Right now, as you know, I don't. If you hit the asteroid, you just bounce off of it. Well, what happens if you wanted to die, just like you did with the original game? Well, all you have to do is come back into the physics group and saying ships hit asteroid, ships and asteroids. Yeah, here's the ships and asteroids. So instead of doing a collider, you would do an overlap, because basically collider says, I'm going to take some more actions once they've collided. But now we want to do an overlap and do a particular action. So if ship hits an asteroid, handle ship hits asteroid. As you can tell, absolutely nothing happens. But all we have to do now is basically say, okay, well, what ship hit what asteroid? What do you want to do? Well, what we want to do is, if it's Krampus, if it's an elf or something, we just kind of maybe want to bounce off, or if it's Santa, we want to bounce off. If it's Krampus, we want to kill the Krampus. So there'd be this section you want to be able to put in the code to say, you're not going to bounce off of it. You're actually going to, you're actually going to die. So if you want to make the game harder, that'd be the way to do it. But that's basically all there is to the game. It works. It works fairly well. It's actually fairly decently fun to play. The gun rotation is a little fast, but that's not a big deal. I would love to be able to get it on my website, but I'm having a couple of issues of trying to get something out on the website. I'm gonna purposely die here, just kind of because I love the little crash symbol that occurs. Here he comes, and boom! There he goes. So as always, this code is completely free to you. It's in the Fun with JavaScript public repo. You can do with it whatever you want to. You can copy it. Fine with me. This is my gift to you. Holiday Game 2025. Thank you very much for an absolutely wonderful year. I got back into this in April, and I absolutely loved doing it. And I am really excited to see what 2026 is going to come across. We got to get the different dimensions and everything, and the different inputs done on the Snake game. So that's going to be our first priority. But I'm also going to revisit in greater detail the racing car game and really try to get that thing as snazzed up as possible. That's going to be another great one. Plus, I got some other ideas that I'm going to play around with for the 2 weeks between now and middle of January. Probably we'll restart this about the middle of January. But then, thank you very much for an absolutely successful 2025. This is the Virtuoid, Mike Smith. Have a happy and wonderful holiday season. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to this channel to view more videos. Click on the like button on this video and visit us at virtuoid.com. Also, support us on Patreon, where you can get access to member-only videos. Links are down below. Again, thank you very much for watching, and keep on coding.